What is going on, everybody? It's the France, and we're here for UnScripted episode number 133 for your August the 23rd, 2020. It is finally here. SummerSlam is tonight from the Amway Center, or as WWE likes to call it, the Thunderdome. But we've had a lot of interesting stories this week. Renee Young leaving WWE, Sonya Deville's house being invaded by a lunatic, and so much more. But let's first talk about the Raw ratings. This is the final episode we had of the PC. It also went up against a lot of sports and the DNC's first night, the final hour did. And the Raw ratings are in. Monday Night SummerSlam Go Home Show edition of Raw featured the Week 3 of Raw Underground, and the final build to Sunday's SummerSlam drew a 1.643 viewers on USA according to Schwarber's Daily. This is down 4.6 from last week's 1.722 million viewers. This is also the fourth lowest viewership in history of the show. The audience was also down from the same week last year, 35%. For this week's show, the first hour drew 1.730, which is down from last week's 1.811. The second hour drew 1.697, and then the third hour, drew 1.502. In that third hour is Raw Underground. Now, the first 2 weeks of Raw Underground, the ratings of the third hour were practically identical. So there was no ups and downs. It didn't bring up any ratings. It didn't drop any ratings from week 1 to week 2. But it dropped this week. One, for mostly because people want to say the DNC. But honestly, with the fact that the Democrats are just terrible at what they're doing and how bad they are. If you really wanted to watch Monday Night Raw, you would watch Monday Night Raw. If you were it's like there are people who watch AEW and NXT at the same time on Wednesday night. If you really, and I mean really, wanted to watch Raw and watch Monday Night Raw's third hour and the DNC at the same time, there are many ways to do that. But no, people were tuning out. Raw ranked 33 of the night in viewership and cable behind Tucker Carlson tonight. Hannity, 5 CNN airings of the Democratic National Convention, DNC coverage on MSNBC, the 5 DNC coverage on Fox News, the Ingram angle, special report, the story, Ride Out, Fox and Friends, 2 airings at 11th hour, 3 airings of the NBA playoffs at ESPN, 90 Day Fiancé, Other Way, 2 airings of the Your World, 90 Day Fiancé Pillow Talk, 90 Day Fiancé Strikes Back, Outnumbered, Bill Hemmer reports, 2 airings of America's Newsroom, Beat, Deadline, White House, and Below Deck. Raw, WWE ranked 11th for the night in cable's top 150 with an average 18 to 49 demographic of 0.48. The 9 p.m. airing of the NBA playoffs on ESPN topped the night in cable with 150 at 1.01. Drawing 2.278 million viewers. CNN's 10 p.m. airing of the DNC topped the night on cable and viewership with 4.844 million viewers, which, by the way, for the Democratic National Convention is very low. Just going to put that out there right now. That's very low. Ranking number 2 on the top 150 with the 0.92 ratings in the key demo. Holy Moly on ABC drew an average of 110 million viewers on the broadcast TV in the 8 p.m. hour, while The Neighborhood drew 3.521 million viewers on CBS. American Ninja Warrior drew 2.445 on NBC. 9/11 drew 2.205 million viewers on Fox, and the CW's Who's London Anyway, which drew 926,000 viewers, all in the 8 p.m. hour on TV broadcast. So, WWE, again, the ratings continue to fall. But are we surprised? Is anybody surprised? I'm not surprised. WWE has been horrendous for a good long while. It's just sad that people think that WWE is going to get any better. As Jon Moxley stated a couple days ago, I think it was a day or so ago, until that one man is removed from the head, WWE's not going to change. WWE is going to continue to suck. And as Jon Moxley mentioned on a recent interview with Dave Meltzer, the Wrestling Observer News Radio, that WWE is the face of professional wrestling. Whether we want it to be or not, They are the face. When people think of professional wrestling on the casual level, it's WWE. And when they suck, it makes the rest of the world, the rest of the industry look like painted a bad picture. So I hope that WWE can do something, but honestly, I don't see anything happening that's going to make this feel better. Raw Underground is absolutely atrocious. Nothing on WWE Raw makes any sense. Nothing on Monday Night Raw is ever any good. But it is what WWE does. They just don't know how to make good television anymore. Let's talk about what the most disturbing thing that happened this week. Well, Sonya Deville was at her home with, I believe, Mandy Rose, and I think one or two others, or whatever, and somebody broke in to her house. And court record shows that Thomas... Oh, hold on. I have the top of this right. Yeah. Philip A. Thomas remains incarcerated on Hillsborough County Jail in Florida after trying to abduct WWE superstar Sonya Deville on Sunday morning. At a pre-trial hearing scheduled for this past Thursday, August 20th at 4:30 p.m., the hearing will determine if Thomas should be held without bail or will be allowed to post bond and remain out on bail while he waits to go to trial. It's likely that he will remain in jail because he is from out of state. Thomas, a 24-year-old man from South Carolina, arrived in Florida around midnight Sunday morning and parked his car near Deville's home in the parking lot of Idlewood Church of Dale Marby Highway and Van Dyke Road in Lutz, Florida. Thomas walked to a nearby subdivision where Deville's home is, and then cut a hole in her patio screen, waited for hours watching and listening through windows, and watched as Deville went to bed around 2:45 a.m., and then tried to enter the home through a sliding glass door that triggered Deville's security system. Deville looked out the window to see Thomas on her property, and she and a guest, which was Mandy Rose, we found out later, immediately left the home in a car and called 911. Police arrived and found Thomas still in the home. He was found in possession of a knife, zip ties, duct tape, mace, and other items. He admitted to the police that he planned to take the homeowner, Deville, hostage. He also admitted to planning the crime for the past 8 months. Thomas' social media page indicated that he was obsessed with Deville and had been trying to interact with her for some time and had interacted with some of her fans. A jail booking sheet notes that Thomas worked at an Applebee's where he is from. And our deputies are unveiling the suspect's disturbing obsession with the homeowner who he had never met, but stalked on social media for years, Sheriff Chad Cronister said in a new release. It's frightening to think that all of the ways this incident could have played out had the home alarm not gone off, alerted the homeowner of the intruder. For those who missed it, Deville took to Twitter on Sunday and issued a statement on the incident. Thank you to everyone who loved and concerned. A frightening experience, but thankfully everyone is safe. And special thank you to Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office for response and assistance. Blackhearted Mochi, she wrote. Stay tuned for updates on this. This is sickening. This is disturbing. The guy never met Sonya Deville before. She never met him before, as far as we know. And this guy just decides he's going to go to her house and kidnap her and do whatever he can with her. And it's sad because it's really easy to find these professional wrestlers' homes addresses in any which way. I mean, just think of what could have happened had the alarm not gone off, or if for some reason she didn't have an alarm. How bad this could have gotten. Thankfully, she did have an alarm, and thankfully that alarm went off, and nobody got harmed in this. Then you have fucking Jim Cornette going on his podcast, talking about how WWE should fire both women because they are in a feud. They're in a blood feud. And Mandy Rose was at her house. And I'm thinking, Jim, I didn't watch the thing, but I heard the little clip of it. And even his broadcast partner is like, stop, dude, just stop. That's not even cool, man. The only reason we knew she was there was because some maniac broke into her house. He's like, oh, well, let it die down, then fire them. And it's like, dude, this isn't 1985. Even though we know, like most of us have been brain to know that, yes, outside of wrestling, they are best friends. That is not going to change because they're in WWE now. So it's just one of those things that it's like, this is why the hair versus hair match is not happening tonight. And we're having a no disqualification match. The loser leaves WWE. Now, I didn't think about it, why they would do this match, until I looked at things on Twitter later in the night. Yes, this makes sense for Sonya Deville to lose. It gives Sonya Deville time off. She can go clear her head, go talk to a therapist if she needs to, get things in her life sorted out, and figure things out. So, honestly, in my opinion, with both of them being in this situation and everything happening, I think it should be both of them. Both of them should take time off. Plain and simple, both of them. So, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I'm glad that everything worked out in the best way possible. And Sonya Deville was not harmed. And this sick son of a bitch, gets sent away for as long as they can give him. Because this was pathetic. It's just really sad that somebody would go out there and do this. But if anything else comes of this, I'll let you guys know in the future. Now, speaking of the women of WWE, Renee Young leaving WWE after apparently tonight. Renee Young reportedly gave her notice to the company 1 week ago, according to PW Insider. This, of course, was a news story a couple days ago. There's no word yet on what Young's final date with the company will be. We'll keep you updated. Young took some time off earlier this summer after testing positive for COVID. She has appeared via video from WWE programming since then, and recently revealed plans for her first cookbook. WWE first hired Renee Young in 2012. She has worked on several shows since, including the host of Talking Smack and a cast member of Total Divas. She's also hosted FS1's WWE Backstage until it was nixed by the network. Young became the first full-time female member of the Women's Raw announced team in August 2018 before she was moved to SmackDown as a special contributor in October of last year. She's married to AEW champion Jon Moxley. There's no word yet on what her next move is, but it's likely she'll continue her interest for another wrestling organization, aka AEW. Now, this is bad for WWE. Honestly, Renee Young is one of the best who's ever been in that company when it comes to being a host of backstage events, like Talking Smack, which is brought back from WWE. And I haven't watched it yet. I'm going to probably watch it tomorrow, like today or something, as I am doing this, recording this right after AEW and TakeOver is all done. So I might go back and watch that. But it's just, there is nobody. The only person, in my opinion, who I think has come close to being anywhere close to Renee Young was Kathy Kelly. Kathy Kelly was almost in the same echelon of backstage presenters as Renee Young, but she left after TakeOver Portland before there was a COVID. Now you don't have Renee Young. Why would Renee Young leave? I honestly think the biggest thing the two biggest reasons Renee Young is leaving. One, her husband works in AEW, maybe she wants to go work with him. And two, WWE's poor handling of the COVID-19 stuff, incidents and stuff. I know, the whole media wants to blame Trump and everything for being the only reason why COVID is bad as it is, but that's not true. But the outbreak happened in WWE that caused Renee Young to get COVID-19 is all on Vince McMahon and how poorly he handled it, and how they weren't doing testing. They were doing temperature checks, filling out questionnaires, and that was it. Then somebody asymptomatic comes into the performance center, one of their trainees, and ends up getting 30 plus people sick. And the only people we know was Kayla Braxton and Renee Young, Adam Pearce, and I believe one other person. But yeah, the way WWE handled that and the fact that they wanted to sweep it under the rug, I too would want to leave WWE because that's how they feel and how they want to treat this virus, this disease. They want to just, Vince McMahon sees it as a hindrance and not as something that he needs to take serious. Now, I don't think it's as bad as everyone wants to make it out to be, but my goodness, when you have 30 plus people test positive in one go, whose fault is that? Vince McMahon's. Vince McMahon for not taking the precautions, acting like it's not even a thing, not even mentioning, it's banned from talking about it on WWE television. The entire thing is just an inconvenience to Vince McMahon, and that's all it ever was. So I don't blame Renee Young saying, you know what? I see how Vince McMahon is handling this, how he doesn't seem to care as much as other people. I'm going to go and leave. I'm going to cut my losses and just leave as soon as I can. Good on Renee Young. It's like, say tonight's her last date, then she's gone from WWE. Do not say, oh, well, Renee Young's gone, she'll be in AEW next week. No. She's putting her notice in, she's leaving, her contract's not up. At least I don't think it is. If her contract's up, then that's one thing, but I don't think it's up. So, something tells me there's going to be like a 90-day no-compete clause, so if she even wants to show up in AEW, we won't see her for another 90 days. But, as we all know, it's going to be inevitable. What is Renee Young going to do after her time in WWE is done? And she's clear to do whatever she wants. Obviously, she's probably going to go to AEW and be a backstage interviewer. And I wonder what her name's going to be, because it's not going to be able to be Renee Young. Maybe it'll be Renee Good or whatever her actual name is. But yeah, Renee Young leaving WWE, and it's a shame. WWE is losing one of the greats that, honestly, I'm going to say one of the great hosts that they've ever had in that company. Renee Young, unlike unlike Sarah Schreiber. Moving on here, some interesting news coming out of what could be a change of creative on Monday Night Raw. Even though the Raw Underground has been an absolute failure, it was a Shane McMahon idea. So, what does WWE possibly be doing with Shane McMahon? Why, Shane McMahon could be taking over Monday Night Raw, replacing Bruce Pritchard as the lead writer. A new report from Alex McCartney of TalkSport and Sportskeeda claims that Shane McMahon could replace Bruce Pritchard as the new head writer on Monday Night Raw. Pritchard, senior WWE's vice president and executive director of Raw and SmackDown, took charge on Monday night after Paul Heyman was fired in June of this year. Pritchard, who initially replaced Eric Bischoff as executive director of SmackDown last October, is reportedly looking to lighten his workload and focus on just one show. Well, Bruce, if you really wanted to work on just one show, why didn't you give Vince McMahon an idea of who you think should replace Paul Heyman instead of yourself? I tell you what, I would not want to be the head writer of two shows if I was being somebody who had to write two shows at the same time. That would be terrible, especially when they both have to go through one man. One source in WWE has told me Shane is being considered to take Raw off Bruce's hands, leaving him to concentrate on SmackDown. Another layer to the story is that Pritchard making no secret about the fact that he'd like to lighten his workload and has been struggling with the long hours. I mean, come on, you got to write two shows. That's 5 hours of wrestling within a week. And of course, it hasn't been easy for him recently, because you got to think, you're writing not 5 hours, but 10 hours, as you have two shows per taping. So that doesn't help anything at all. Earlier this month, Shane returned to WWE television for the first time since his loss to Kevin Owens on SmackDown's Fox debut last October. Shane introduced a new concept of Raw called the Raw Underground, which combines elements of MMA and blood sport. However, Raw Underground has not helped WWE salvage the sinking viewerships on WWE Raw, which registered its fourth lowest viewership in history this past Monday. If Shane does take over of Pritchard, it will mark the third instance of a shakeup in Raw creative department since last June when Heyman was hired. Here's the thing. It doesn't matter who is in the writing. It doesn't matter who's writing the show. Everything goes through Vince McMahon. You could put me. He could put you. He could put anybody in that position to be the head writer of Monday Night Raw, but everything goes to Vince McMahon. You could have an entire 3-hour episode of Monday Night Raw written that the fans would love, and it would cater, and the hardcore fans who were complaining about the show, you could have everything they want to see on one episode of Monday Night Raw. And it goes to Vince McMahon, and he nixes everything and says, nope, rewrite this. What is the fucking point then? I don't get what would be the point of any of this if you're just going to have to go to Vince McMahon. It doesn't really matter. So, and it's something we've said, it's something ex-WWE talent have said, it doesn't matter because they're writing for an audience of one. Not an audience of 1,000, an audience of one. Until that changes, Raw is going to be the same. The ratings are going to continue to fall. And if it's going to continue to fall, I hope the fucking ratings bottom out so badly that it's down to less than 1 million viewers by the end of the year. And the way it's going, it's probably going to get like that. I have a feeling if AEW and NXT, when everything gets back to normal, the playoffs are done for hockey and NBA, and everything gets back to normal, back to Wednesday night being wrestling night as it's been since October of last year, there's going to become a time when, and what's the way things are going with Monday Night Raw and the way things are going with NXT and AEW, that we're going to get through a week and AEW and NXT combined beat all 3 hours of Monday Night Raw. They've come close. They have come close multiple times. It needs to come, people need to, Vince McMahon needs to look himself in the mirror and be like, whoa, I need to step down. I need to have, if you want to put Shane McMahon in charge of writing, fine. Let Shane McMahon write the show and let Shane McMahon's vision show us what he can do for Monday Night Raw. Let Bruce Pritchard have his vision go through SmackDown. Vince McMahon is at the time of his age and a time of his life where he needs to be sitting in Greenwich, Connecticut, or wherever the fuck Stamford, Connecticut, sit there at Titan Towers and write checks and negotiate deals for TV and negotiate deals for sponsorships and negotiate deals for anything. A way to get them to make money. That's what Vince McMahon should be doing right now in his life. Not writing the show. The only thing Vince McMahon should do when it comes to the shows is have to look over an angle or something that's going to have to do with, what I want to say, with the sponsors, with the sponsors like this, or but anything that has to, if it's approved by the sponsors, just let it be, and whatever Shane McMahon's creative team does, and whatever Bruce Pritchard's team does, let that happen for 2 months, 3 months, and see if the ratings improve. If the ratings improve, Vince McMahon can be like, well, they have it. I'm going to sit back. I'm going to write checks. That's all I'm going to do. Is that going to happen? Probably fucking not. But until something actually happens, the shows are not going to get any better. Now, WWE. In June, the Forgotten Sons member Jackson Rager tweeted out his support for the president, bringing immediate heat on himself during a time when the BLM movement was very high and much in the news after the death of George Floyd. It was not a murder. The body cam footage has come out and contradicted that. We need to get that one straight. But he tweeted out in June, thankful for the protests. We have, God bless America, built of freedom, forgotten no more. Although not everyone voiced their opinion, it was reported a large amount of WWE locker was fuming at Riker's comments. Kevin Owens did comment publicly, mostly annoyed at Riker for including his shitty wrestling catchphrase at an inappropriate time. The stable has not been seen on TV since. Wrestling Observer Radio Dave Meltzer reported the group was originally set to win the SmackDown Tag Team titles, but after that tweet, those plans were nixed. The Forgotten Sons have been feuding with the New Day, who were the champions at the time. The trio was replaced by current tag team champions Cesaro and Nakamura. As noted, fellow stablemates Cutler and Wesley Blake almost immediately moved away from Riker's words. Although I am part of the tag team, while I wrestle, I am my own person with my own thoughts and beliefs, Cutler wrote in a now-deleted tweet. It pays me to see what's going on in the world. I fought for the freedom of our country and all the people who live here. It shouldn't matter your race or however you identify. We are all human beings and all deserve to be equal. Hashtag justice for George Floyd, which has already happened. I will never understand, however, I stand, wrote Blake wrote. Okay, so yes, we all knew that was how that happened. But here's the thing. If WWE really believed in the Forgotten Sons gimmick and the Forgotten Sons tag team, this is a real simple way to let Blake and Cutler get a shot to hold their own on SmackDown and distance themselves from Riker. On the very next episode of SmackDown, after all this went down, you have Blake and Riker. You have a 6-man tag match. Okay, you have a 6-man tag match. Riker cost his team the match. After the match, Blake and Cutler beat down Riker, tear off his take his jacket, they rip it up, they throw it down on him, they end the partnership with him, and the Forgotten Sons become a duo instead of a trio. And then they get to have time on the main roster. Riker, they could do whatever they want with him. They can't fire him for this reason. Because they couldn't just sit there and go, well, we have to let you go because of what you said. They can't do that because that's a lawsuit way out of the realm that WWE wants to deal with right now. But it's kind of pathetic that WWE won't somebody's not allowed to have their own political view. I've seen since this entire George Floyd bullshit has happened that every single person in WWE outside of Road Dogg and Jackson Ryker have just sat there and towed the Black Lives Matter bullshit line of justice for George Floyd. What the fuck justice do you need? The guy who supposedly killed him got arrested, got fired, got arrested, is going to trial. What else do you need for justice for that guy? Anybody, and I will say this now and I'm never going to say it again, anybody who supports Black Lives Matter, loves racism, loves hate, you love hate, you love Marxism, and you are an anti-American person. I don't ever want to hear anybody support Black Lives Matter because it is a fraud. And it's just a damn shame. Like, the Forgotten Sons never really got to do anything on NXT because at the time that they came in, you had the Undisputed Era being the top team in the company, the top heel team in NXT. They weren't going to get any time to shine. So they brought them up to the main roster. They got a little bit of momentum behind them, and then Jackson Ryker tweeted that out. Just like they said, be careful what you tweet online because that could ruin your career like that. Jackson Ryker, his career is over, and honestly, even if he would have said the most egregious thing out there that would have deserved for them to be pulled away, or him to be pulled off, Cutler and Blake don't deserve to have to be lumped in with him. Like I said, what they could have did was had Blake and Cutler sever ties by coming out the next week in a match, in a 6-man tag match, or a normal tag match, having Riker go to trip somebody up, and it turned out to be Cutler or Blake, costing them the match, and then them turning on Riker. Riker disappears. They cut a promo how they disown this guy. He's been holding them back. They're going to go out there and show that they don't need him, and whatever, Forgotten No More, blah, blah, blah. And then you would still have another tag team on the main roster. But no, WWE went the petty route and cut these guys' legs out from underneath them, and they're getting the sanity treatment. And who's going to care about the Forgotten Sons even if they come back now? Vince McMahon just doesn't get how to do things. Now, NXT this week ran unopposed. NXT drew 853,000 viewers this past Wednesday, up 38% from last week's 619,000. This is the best viewership of 2020 and the 5th best audience of all time. This is also the best viewership since November 20th episode, which drew 916,000 viewers, beating the AEW show at that time at 893,000. This is the fourth time that NXT has aired without competition from AEW since moving to USA. The first two episodes were September 18th, which drew 1,179 million viewers. September 25th, which drew 1.006. The Christmas edition, which was not even really a show, drew 831,000. This week's show ranked 64th in viewership and 23rd in the top 100. Last week's ranked 65 and 71. NXT drew a 0.24 rating, up 50% on the 1849 demo this week. Last week's show drew a 0.16. The 0.24 rating in 1849 is tied for the two other shows, the January 22nd and February 12th episode, to be the second best ratings in the demo this year, behind the February 19th episode. Of course, the Democratic National Convention topped the night. Here's the thing. There was actually, and I don't have the number here, but it was like the 18 to 49 demo. Like the 18 to like 29 of that 18 to 49 demo was a 0.00%. Nobody under the age of 35 was watching NXT this past Wednesday. That ain't good. That ain't good at all. If NXT is not going to capture the 18 to 49 demo the way it needs to be captured, and it's more of the people who are like going towards the end of the 18 to 49 demo, that just shows that NXT's audience is not a young audience. NXT's audience is an older audience. We always talked about how NXT was the cool, hip, young brand before AEW existed. And now we come to find out that they're not cool, young, or hip. They're just another brand that, like, the old people watch. And it's just weird to see. So, NXT had a better rating this week. But I have a feeling that AEW is going to come back next week and just squash all of that. Go back to Renee Young for a minute. And, okay, as noted earlier in this thing, Renee Young gave her notice to the WWE will be leaving the company after SummerSlam weekend. At one point, she was reportedly working under two contracts, according to the rest of the Observer newsletter. She had an employee deal with WWE, which allowed her to give her notice when she wanted, and a second contract with Fox for WWE's Backstage show that was nixed a few months back. The contract was canceled when the show was pulled from FS1. With the Fox contract no longer in play, Young was able to leave WWE without any lingering obligations. It was also noted that Young agreed to work through SummerSlam weekend. There was no wording if WWE would use her in any other shows this weekend. Most likely not. Young is married, of course, to AEW champion Jon Moxley. AEW was actually unaware of Young's departure until the news broke. A source close to the situation noted that Observer that it's inevitable Young hosts something or does some kind of work for AEW, but there's no deal in place at the current time because there can't be. She is still technically under contract with WWE until she's let go, and if there is a no-compete clause, that comes up too. So, there's no deal in place because she can't have one yet. If Young does work with AEW, it likely won't be anytime soon, as her deal with a serious no-compete clause, according to the Observer, as I've said. Regarding AEW, Young's non-wrestling future, she is releasing her first cookbook soon, but the Observer reports that she also has some cool stuff that has been presented to her. It was also noted that her interests would include any work in sports talk shows, comedy shows, or podcast shows, among other projects. She also has some experience with acting. You know what? It wouldn't surprise me if Renee Young starts her own podcast. It would not surprise me if we hear the Renee Young podcast happening soon, or something with Renee Young. It just seems like that's something she would do. Again, Renee Young, she'll be in AEW eventually. Can't wait to see that. Now, going back to the Sonya Deville thing, I had these notes out of order, so, it's just how it goes. A number of WWE talent was shaken up by the recent incident at Sonya Deville's home, which the man broke into her home and tried to kidnap her. Which Honestly, I think it's not the craziest story you've ever heard in professional wrestling history when it comes to a obsessed fan, but it is still scary as shit. It was reported this week that by Wrestling Observer newsletter there have been some WWE wrestlers who applied for new gun licenses this week due to concerns coming out of the incident, which I'm pretty sure is any of the female roster. There are others who are installing or testing home security systems. The suspect from the incident at DeVille's home, Philip Abe Thompson, was denied bail at the hearing on Thursday. Thank goodness. Which, honestly, if you're someone trying to kidnap somebody, bail should be automatically denied. Why? Because who's to say that's going to stop this person when if they get out on bail, that they're not going to go and try and kidnap that person again? Thankfully, that person was denied bail. DeVille testified at the hearing. For disturbing details, you can go to a link at WrestlingInc.com's website. DeVille's testimony on the various threats Thomas had made to her and what happened when she confronted him in the home last past Sunday. So he got denied bail. She testified. That is great. I'm just glad that it's over with. It's not over with till the guy is convicted and thrown in jail. But good thing he was denied bail, because if he gets out on bail, which most likely would have happened, the guy would have went back to find Sonya Deville's house and tried to kidnap her again, and this all would have been a lot worse. Now, anybody else getting a gun permit, good. I'm pretty sure a lot of the female wrestlers, and maybe some of the male wrestlers too. But yeah. Anything like I said earlier, it's just crazy the fact that it's scary as shit that you can go out there and just break into somebody's home, get their address, and do something to them. And it's terrible. Again, like I said, I'm glad that it's over with and we don't have to hopefully hear anything else happening that's going to end up hurting Sonya Deville, Mandy Rose, or anybody else. If you have an obsession with somebody to the point where you want to kidnap them, go talk to a therapist, please. Because it's just not a good idea to ruin your life or anybody else's life because you think that you are better. You can go and do this. Just no. Don't do it. Now, one of my favorite things this past year at the beginning of the year was the XFL. XFL went out of business because Vince McMahon's a piece of shit who wanted to just end the XFL and get his money back. Thankfully, the creditors and the thing went up for sale, and now The Rock and his partners have owned it, and the keys for the XFL have been handed over. The purchase has been complete. The deal is officially closed, and the keys to the XFL have been handed over. I am humbly accepted and promise to put my callous hands to hard work by building our new brand. Congrats to my partner Danny Garcia and Gary Cardinal and our sharp, hungrily team and XFL owner for the hashtag for the love of football. Rock tweeted during this, attached a photo of his key to thing, which is, well, him and Danny Garcia both put one out with a key, both with a different symbol on them, which looks pretty cool. Rock and his partner Danny Garcia and Redbird Capital formed an LLC to run the league with called Alpha Aquico. It was reported earlier this month they were looking to holding the 2021 season. Vince first folded it back in 2001. 19 years later, brought the thing back, and then folded it again because of the pandemic. The 10-game relaunch, it was projected to $46 million in gross revenue on the 10-game relaunch season this year, which each data point reportedly exceeded internal expectations. Now, one of my things that I wish they could bring back with this XFL is Oliver Luck. Oliver Luck was a big staple to the XFL. He had the connections. He was the commissioner that the XFL needed to get off the ground. And everything that he did with his group and his staff that he put together to build the XFL was going to make that football. Honestly, I believe if the XFL succeeded in 2020 and 2021, that the XFL would have succeeded to break even next year, in my opinion. I think they would have broken even next year. They were doing that well. That's probably a little bit optimistic for me, but I just feel like they were doing so well. If they would have finished the entire season, hell, the week that the pandemic hit, St. Louis was hosting their next home game, and the upper bowl, was being opened for seats. That would have been a huge money maker for the XFL, but unfortunately, that didn't happen. I'm hoping this is 2021 season. A lot of fans are hoping this is 2021 season. Is it plausible? I have no idea. We're going to have to wait and see what happens. XFL 2021, I will keep you guys updated. And if it comes back, I will be going back to doing my weekly reviews of the weeks. Now, as we know, this past Friday, we had the Thunderdome at the Amway Center. WWE has plans and has had the date changed for events planned for this year. WWE is expected to do 3 pay-per-view events under the new residency at the Amway Center in Florida, which is where the Thunderdome is. It was reported this week that WWE has 3 confirmed pay-per-view dates right from the fall under the 60-day residency. That's the Payback pay-per-view, SummerSlam, and Clash of Champions on September 27th. The rest of the pay-per-view schedule comes after the Amway Center contract ends on Friday, October 30th, but it's possible that the contract is renewed. The renewal would depend on several factors, including the status of touring during the COVID-19 pandemic, arenas allowing fans at events. Past October, WWE has 3 more pay-per-view dates on the calendar as of this week. Hell in a Cell, November 1st. Really? November 1st for Hell in a Cell? Survivor Series 3 weeks later, and TLC on December 30th. 3 dates. These 3 dates for Hell in a Cell, Survivor Series, and TLC is a bit of a change from the internal pay-per-views calendar that WrestleVotes reported earlier this year. It was reported back in May via WrestleVotes that Clash of Champions was scheduled for September 20th. Hell in a Cell was scheduled for October 18th, and Survivor Series was scheduled on November 22nd in Dallas. TLC on December 30th, 20th in Chicago. While these cities will no longer be confirmed due to the coronavirus pandemic, it's possible that Clash of Champions and Hell in a Cell dates can change due to their locations. So, honestly, things are going to be interesting to see what happens after the next few months with the Thunderdome. The Thunderdome is going to be WWE's home for the next few months. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Now, is the Thunderdome working at all? After one day, I'm going to say no. When I watch professional wrestling, I know when we watch, there's an actual crowd there, and the wrestling is bad. We can see people sitting there just like, oh, this is boring, or they're sitting there with their hands sitting on their hands, not doing anything. But when you're watching this, and you see people just sitting there, looking at a screen, looking dead front into a screen, it just looks so bad. The fact that there was someone who pointed out during Big E's match, there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different times, like one person, like 4 or 5 different times, doesn't look good for this. The fucking fake ass crowd noises was god awful. The only positive I think I had from this entire thing was we had pyro back. And if you actually watch the matches and you watch the entrance and stuff, they have these tubes out in between all these screens that also have pyro come out of them, so you get a little bit bigger presentation with pyro. It's just not enough for me to care. The Thunderdome, as we stated before, as many other people have stated as well, you can put all the bells and whistles out there for people to watch. If it's not any fucking good when it comes to creativity, if the matches have no meaning, if the matches are no good, if the presentation of the show is no good, who the fuck is gonna care about the Thunderdome? The Thunderdome, yes, SmackDown's rating was up. It's in the 2 still. The 2s again now. But that's not gonna fucking matter if the shows don't get any better. If the creative doesn't get any better. If Vince McMahon doesn't want to change at all. The show, the Thunderdome's not going to matter in the long run. It needs to get better creatively. But it is what WWE is going to do. They're going to think that this is going to work, see that SmackDown's rating went up, and then go, oh, look, the Thunderdome helped out as much as we needed to. Let's get through SummerSlam. Let's get to Monday Night Raw. But here's the problem. You have SmackDown, you have SummerSlam. People are going to be sick of the Thunderdome by the time we get to Monday Night Raw. And then Monday Night Raw is going to come around. The Republican National Convention starts on Monday. I guarantee you the RNC is going to hurt Monday Night Raw's ratings in that third hour again. And the Thunderdome is going to be from, this is the savior of WWE, to it was just another gimmick that did not go over well. But that's just what I think about that. Moving on here. Rey Mysterio's contract. Rey Mysterio has re-signed with WWE. That poor soul having to finish his career in WWE. His new deal is believed to be worth 3 years, according to Dave Meltzer in the latest Wrestling Observer newsletter. Mysterio has signed his last deal in September 2018. The deal expired earlier this year, and he has been working without a contract. AEW reportedly made an offer to Mysterio recently. The offer was the same as WWE per match figure. However, WWE's deal was more because it included more dates. Mysterio returned on television this week after losing his eye, quote-unquote, to Seth Rollins at WWE's horror show that was Extreme Rules. He will be in his son's corner this Sunday at SummerSlam. Dominic faces Seth Rollins in a street fight. Dominic is said to be a big part of Mysterio's new deal. During an interview with ESPN, Mysterio revealed that he was the one who told Dominic that he would be facing Rollins at SummerSlam. I initially thought he was joking, Dominic told ESPN. I was like, what are you talking about? That's not happening. I'm not under contract. I'm not. He said, I'm not even ready yet, Ray added. He thought I was messing with him. So, Rey Mysterio is going to be around for another 3 years. Good on Rey. Is that going to make any difference for Rey Mysterio? For WWE? Probably not. Here's the thing. After the street fight tonight, where does that leave? Where do we go next with this? Does this storyline still keep going on? If Dominic wins, where do we go from here? What does Dominic do? Does he go on to continue to wrestle, or does he go down to NXT where he should be to build up a character so he's not in his father's shadow? Yes, Dominic Mysterio, somebody who is twice the size of his dad, is in his dad's shadow until he builds his own career. I don't know what's going to happen after this, but I honestly think Dominic... News for me to say this week.